What's up everybody, Brad here. In this video, I'll be reviewing the SVS Prime Wireless 2.1 system. Can this system level up your audio game from those computer speakers or headphones you've been using? Is this a huge upgrade from your standard soundbar? Let's find out. If you're new to the channel, I post home theater and gaming related content, like technical breakdowns, graphics, performance, and audio reviews of video games, and gear reviews just like the one you're watching now. Consider hitting that subscribe button and clicking that bell notification so you'll never miss out when I upload a new video. Also, there's some Amazon links in the description below, which I get a small commission from when you click on one and buy anything on Amazon. This doesn't cost you anything and helps support the channel. Also, a big thanks to SVS for lending me the Prime Wireless 2.1 system for review. With that said, they did not pay me anything for this review, this is not a sponsored video, and they won't be seeing this video before it goes up on YouTube. I'll be giving my unbiased opinion and talking about both the good and bad related to this product. If you're interested in checking out the SVS Prime Wireless 2.1 system, I'll leave links to that in the description below. From a technical standpoint, this system checks all the boxes. The speakers themselves feature a flush-mounted 1-inch aluminum dome tweeter, a 4.5-inch mid-range driver, and a 2.36-inch rear-firing port for enhanced bass output. They have a frequency response of 52 Hz to 25 kHz, an amplifier built into the right speaker that sends 50 watts RMS to each driver for a total of 200 watts RMS, and it does feature a 192 kHz 24-bit DAC. On the back, they have a subwoofer out, a stereo RCA input, an optical input, auxiliary input, Ethernet ins and outs for network connectivity, a mono to stereo flip switch, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi setup buttons, and a USB service port for things like manual firmware updates. Since SVS sent me the 2.1 version of this system, this included the SB1000 subwoofer. This sealed subwoofer features a front-firing 12-inch high excursion driver, a frequency response of 24 Hz to 260 Hz, and a 300 watts RMS sledge amplifier. Around the back of the sub, it has volume, phase, and crossover dial controls, an auto standby or on flip switch, stereo RCA ins and outs, and high-level speaker inputs. I'll be doing a full review of the SB1000 to see how it fares in my home theater, so look for that video soon. Right as I unboxed the Prime Wireless speakers, I knew I was not going to be disappointed with the build quality. These things are hefty, with the right speaker weighing almost a pound more than the left speaker thanks to it housing the internal amplifier. The removable speaker grills are framed in hard plastic with wood providing more support on the backside. The speaker grill pegs themselves are made out of hard plastic as well, and while fit snugly in the speaker's peg holes, sit in such a way that I wouldn't worry about them breaking off even after removing and reattaching them multiple times. The volume and input selection dials on the front feel very sturdy and have almost zero play in them. The finish that SVS sent me is piano black and looks excellent, although my OCD kicks into overdrive as the finish likes to show off dust and fingerprints like they're under a microscope. This obviously comes down to personal preference, though I would prefer a premium black ash version similar to the finish on the SB1000 that was sent to me. Speaking of the SB1000, this subwoofer is every bit as premium and high quality as the speakers themselves. I will be covering this more in depth in my actual review, but needless to say, the build quality on the subwoofer is excellent as well. Setting these up is about as simple as it gets, but if you're afraid of using your smartphone or tablet, then things can get a bit tricky. Basic setup without worrying about Wi-Fi or Bluetooth connectivity is simple and straightforward. Plug the included interconnect cable between the right and left speaker, plug your source into one of the inputs, and attach the power cord and plug it in. Use the input selector on the front to select the source you plugged in, and that's it. You're good to go. Just make sure to flip the switch to stereo on the back before you start listening, otherwise you might be scratching your head as to why it doesn't sound so impressive. Don't ask me how I know this. If you have a subwoofer, then setting that up is just as simple. Just plug the subwoofer cable to the sub out and connect the other end to the LFE input on the sub. Connecting a subwoofer cable to the output automatically applies a low-pass filter at 80 Hz, cutting off those frequencies below that from playing on the speakers. However, what is sent to the sub isn't only those frequencies below 80 Hz, but instead a full-range signal sub to a mono output. This means that setting the subwoofer's crossover properly is extremely important, otherwise it'll try to play back midtones and voices and will end up just sounding strange. I was able to verify this with SVS, and they did indeed confirm that this is sending a full range signal to the subwoofer and letting that do the bass management. Both the manual and the person at SVS I spoke to recommend a crossover at 90 Hz, and I agree. Otherwise it starts sounding a bit too thin. This goes for both the SB1000 that I was using or any other subwoofer for that matter. So if you haven't figured it out by now, the Prime wireless speakers aren't actually wireless. The wireless term refers to one of the system's biggest selling points, which is the ability to cast music from your mobile devices from anywhere in your house. Remember earlier when I said that if you're afraid of using your smartphone or tablet, things can get a bit tricky? Well, in all honesty, if you know how to download an app to your phone or tablet, then you have nothing to worry about. And if you're not that tech savvy, it's still easy enough to follow along in the manual to get everything set up without a hitch, regardless if you're on iOS or Android. It's as simple as downloading the Play-Fi app and selecting Set up Play-Fi device. This will guide you through the steps needed to set up the Prime wireless system, update it if needed, and name the device. From there, you'll have access to all the popular music streaming services such as Amazon Music, Spotify, and Tidal. I currently only use Spotify, and selecting that from the list of apps has me open the app itself. By default, it plays out of my iPhone, and I have to manually select Brad's Office from Spotify's listening on menu. Now, this isn't really a big deal as all of my devices do this, but I just felt it was worth mentioning. I do wish there was a way that the Play-Fi app could directly integrate with these music services, but since there's so many music services and more being developed and added all the time, I get why this isn't the case. Now, this isn't a knock against SVS, obviously. They don't own or operate the Play-Fi app. I just felt it was worth mentioning. So we've gone over all the features, hooking this up, build quality, blah, blah, blah. But how do these things actually sound? Are they worthy of their $600 price tag or $1,100 price tag if you include the subwoofer? Well, I actually listened to these for the first few days without the subwoofer, and I gotta tell you, I've never heard sound this big come from speakers of this size before. These get extremely loud and sound just as full and rich as huge bookshelves and even certain floor standing speakers I've demoed before. I didn't hear any distortion when I cranked these up to 100%, although admittedly, this was only for a few seconds as I didn't want to damage my hearing. Yes, they get that loud. The highs are clear and crisp. The midtones sound balanced and nuanced, unless what I was listening to called for some mid-bass punch. The low end is also extremely well balanced and tight, although for $600 I honestly expected a little bit more out of the low end. Granted, these do sound great, but they use a 4.5-inch driver and only go down to 52 Hz, which means you're missing out on a lot of low frequency information. Adding the SB1000 subwoofer really put this system on a whole other level. Everything I threw at it just blew me away. Games, movies, music, YouTube videos. I was hearing things in games that I didn't even know were there because I was playing with headphones before and really missing out on a lot of stuff. Playing games like Death Stranding, the Destroy All Humans remake, and Doom Eternal were almost like playing different games. This was definitely a huge step up from my gaming headphones or cheap computer speakers I've used in the past. So what's my final opinion on the SVS Prime Wireless 2.1 system? Well, honestly, if you're a gamer that listens to music and watches videos on your desktop or PC, this is totally overkill for that. Don't get me wrong, it sounds absolutely amazing and will pretty much blow anything out of the water you put it up against. But that comes at a hefty price of $1,100 with the subwoofer, and that's a lot of money to spend on a desktop system. With that said, if what you're after is an audiophile grade 2.1 system for your desktop or PC, or maybe you want a substantial upgrade from that crappy soundbar you've been using and don't have the space for a 5.1 or more speaker setup, then I think you'd have a hard time finding a system that outperforms this one at this price point. Being able to stream your music from your mobile devices from anywhere in your house is also a major convenience. Yes, it is a lot of money, but SVS is known for making a quality product that delivers an insane bang for the buck. Heck, I bought my SVS PB10 ISD subwoofer back in 2007 for $500, and that thing still rocks and performs flawlessly. The SVS Prime Wireless 2.1 system looks to be no different. If you enjoyed this review and found it helpful, please give it a big thumbs up. It lets me know that you care, that you made it to the end of the video, and that you like me. You really, really like me. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you in the next one where I go to visit my elderly neighbor and I end up shooting an aspirin down his mouth with my slingshot.